Flurry Sports Fantasy Football Podcast. Trevor has a meme that he wants to share with everybody. Trevor, what was that meme that was super popular back in '94?
I never said super popular, first of all. I just said, hey, I just noticed Zach had a new haircut. I said, hey, I like your cut, G. And he looked at me like I was a complete moron, which is fair, but not for that reason. So I feel like more people are, how would you say, informed, cultured. I feel like those are the terms to use than Zach. Let us know. Are you cultured? I hope so.
By the way, you said this is from like last year?
I think so. I have no clue.
Okay, so I was
time is relative in COVID.
Yeah, I was probably paying attention to COVID news instead of looking at bullshit memes. So
and guess what? COVID news is still here. You know what? Apparently isn't anymore. I like your cut, G. So you should have appreciated it while it was here. Okay. Also, for those wondering, New Jersey today. I don't know how the mirroring works. There we go. Shout out to my brothers at Feyenoord in the Netherlands. Shout out to all like 12 fans that are there. So shout out to you guys.
Shout out to the Danish.
As always.
Danish. Aren't the Danish? Wait, is the Danish people from the Netherlands? I don't know. I thought that was people in Denmark.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
The Germans are from Germany.
Wait, I don't even know anymore. Is it what's the difference between Danish and the Dutch then?
I don't think there is a difference.
The Dutch is from Netherlands. Danish is
so then what do you call people from the Netherlands?
Dutch.
I don't know if that's true. It's a common question. Oh no, they are Dutch. Damn it! Shit.
It's like what's the difference between Canadians and Americans?
Danish people are called Danes.
That's a stupid name.
I feel like I'm getting like gaslit right now. What's going on? Okay.
Shut up, Zach. You're not contributing with the jersey, okay? I don't want to hear it.
You want me to? I don't have some bullshit soccer jersey. I'm sorry. And I have like 3 jerseys.
We go back to the culture not being it. It's okay. It's okay. Just the first step is admittance.
Remember, I said this before. Every single jersey I get, that person gets injured. So
that's why you don't get a player. Boom. Win-win. What, is the whole team going to die? Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Me. I'll buy your jersey. Don't tempt me. Tom Brady or somebody like that. I'll do it.
That's the most ever thing I've ever seen is a jersey without a last name on it.
Dude, hey, I got to be honest with you. There's like a package where like you spend $25 and they give you a random jersey. So it was a win anyways. I don't want to hear it.
What'd you spend the $25 on?
Well, it's like $25 for a jersey, and he sends you a random one from a random like country, like a team that you don't have. So it's like
So you don't even know what you're spending $25 on.
No, not at all. But hey, ride or die, it worked. The jersey looks slick. Shout out to Away Days. They aren't sponsoring us, but the guy seemed cool. So don't remember his name, but
already forgot. This show is sponsored by Prize Picks. I'm sure they're super happy about this so far. Prize Picks, a DFS site. Go on there. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. But if you go to Prize Picks and use the promo code Flurry, they're going to double whatever you deposit. It's basically a props site. There's a bunch of NFL future props on there right now, which we will get to in a little bit. And there's going to be, I don't know, I probably have like 15 articles already written up for Flurry Sports for this. There's so many easy money props over there, and we'll get to that again at the end here. But you're really stupid if you don't go on there and place these. Like just as a tease here, as a little tease. Which one is it? Which one? Russell Wilson, over 33.5 passing touchdowns this year. Again, Russell Wilson has never missed a game in his career. He's passed for 34 or more touchdowns in 3 of his past 4 seasons. He's going to do it again. Take the money. I'm not here to risk my money. This is just a sure bet. So do that. Promo code Flurry at Prize Picks. Double your money. But first, guys, there was a trade today. It was bright and early. Even earlier for the Rams. If you want to trade with Bill Belichick, you better get up super fucking early, and that's what Sean McVay did. They traded for Sony Michel. I think we talked about last week how that Rams backfield, there's zero chance that it's already settled. They were going to bring somebody in. I didn't think it was going to be a trade, but they traded for Sony Michel, adding to that backfield. Obviously, Cam Akers tore his Achilles. Darrell Henderson was sort of thrust into the starting role. I want to talk about this from the Rams side first. Trevor, I know you wrote an article about RBs to avoid. Darrell Henderson was on the list. I can only imagine this only furthers your dislike for Henderson, at least while his ADP stays this high.
Yeah, there was like a slim chance of, of like people taking Rams running backs. Like we kind of talked about Xavier Jones could work, Darrell Henderson maybe from the workload. But like you said, they were going to bring somebody in. And now with Michelle, it's absolutely don't touch any of them unless you are super deep or you have like 20 plus teams in your league. Because I can tell you one thing, I know Sean McVay also does not know how they're going to use Michelle with Henderson and Xavier Jones. So it's a don't touch. One of these three is probably going to be a kind of a sneaky pickup week 10, when they finally get it figured out. But I mean, if you're drafting, don't go near these guys. There's no point.
Yeah, going near these guys just sounds like a world of headache. This seems like a situation where you somehow end up with all three of them on your team and you never start the right guy. Kind of like a lot of people had with San Francisco running backs last year. But like you said, Trevor, this is just a whole muddled situation of running backs. You don't know who's going to start, who's taking their pound reps, who's coming in the second quarter to spell the starter. I would imagine that this starts to come a little more towards the middle of the year, like you said, kind of what we saw with Cam Akers a little bit last year. But Sony Michel at the Rams doesn't excite me at all. I don't think at all. He was a first-round pick for the Patriots and didn't really turn out to anything at the Patriots. He had a couple games here or there, but nothing first-round worthy. Maybe this is his second shot, his redemption shot, but based off of the past experiences, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I remember last year Sean McVay was talking about his backfield saying, we are going to take a hot hand approach. Maybe Sony Michel gets a couple carries the second drive or something. Henderson may get the first drive. And then whoever takes off, much like the 49ers, they're going to go. So, like, if you're going to predict it, you really can. It's literally whoever is seeing things right that way, reacting right that day. So it's super tough to predict. I would assume Darrell Henderson gets the most snaps, the most yards. But he's 5'8", I believe 208 pounds. There's zero chance he's going to be a bell cow. If he is, then Sony Michel is going to be the starter sooner rather than later. I would assume Sony Michel is the RB2. Xavier Jones goes down to RB3. That's my personal opinion. We'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, I'm going to avoid all of them except for in best ball. I think best ball is super interesting to go Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel super, super late. But in PPR leagues right now, it hasn't adjusted yet, so Darrell Henderson will drop. He was going 310 in 12-team PPR leagues. So my question for you guys is, at what point would you feel comfortable in taking him? And I'm going to go down and take a wild guess. Here's an interesting one. So at 507, middle of the fifth round, Javonte Williams, the rookie, the RB2 starting the year for Denver. Would you rather go Javonte Williams, Luke, or Darrell Henderson?
That's really interesting to me because obviously Denver, it's Melvin Gordon still there, probably going to get the start of it. So people are going to hoard Javonte Williams for when Melvin Gordon inevitably does not play as well that everyone thinks he will. But Darrell Henderson now in the fifth round, you're still going to get a number one running back for at least the first 4 weeks of the year. You got to think. And by that time, usually someone pops up on the waiver wire. We saw like James Robinson last year, about week 3, week 4, he started popping off and people were picking him up like nuts. So I think you'd rather take a flyer on the for sure starter for the first 4 weeks and then work your waiver wire a little bit rather than try to wait out Javonte Williams, who maybe, won't start this year, or if he does, not till the end of the year when the Broncos are kind of out of contention.
Yeah, and I'd assume James Robinson would move up as well. I expect to see him move up earlier. Right now, he's in that same place. For me, though, I question almost if you reach for one Damian Harris, who's a little later. because now that Michelle is gone, Patriots is a little cleared up. Obviously, James White is still there, so that problem isn't fixed. But I really don't like Henderson, and we saw last year, even when Akers was doing well, I think week 5 to 6 around that time, it still took him like 5 weeks to use him. So, if Michelle starts or, even if Henderson's doing good, can we trust him to be on the field? I don't. So I'd take a Williams or a Harris just because of that. But, it's a tough call. And if you're in that situation, you've done something terribly wrong your first 4 rounds of the draft.
So I have another question for Luke then, just because he is willing to take him ahead of Javonte Williams here. So a different positional question. Would you take Darrell Henderson in front of any of these 3 wide receivers? Chris Godwin, Tyler Lockett, or Adam Thielen?
No, I don't think so. We just in your sponsor that you were talking about there, Russ Wilson's going to throw for 34 touchdowns. You got to imagine Lockett's going to get maybe a third of them. Adam Thielen's going to get his touchdowns like he always does every year. Probably get 9 or 10 of them in garbage time, like it seems like he does every year. And I don't know. I think the Buccaneers are a juggernaut, and Chris Godwin is going to need to play that middle of the field well for the Buccaneers to get going. So I think all those receivers have much higher upside than Darrell Henderson, but I think Darrell Henderson might get more work to start the year.
I agree with that. So that would assume that means Darrell Henderson drops, for you, valued around mid-5th round. I'm interested to see how far his ADP does drop, because that's over a full round down from where he is right now. It wouldn't surprise me. People are overreacting a lot to this, and it's kind of rightfully so. It's the same people. What frustrates me, it's the same people who said Sony Michel's terrible at football, and now they're like, Sony Michel's going to take all these carries. I'm personally in the middle of that. I think Sony Michel can ball a little bit. Do I think he's great? Absolutely not. Do I think he's better than Darrell Henderson? At some things, kind of, because I don't think Darrell Henderson's an elite talent by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know. Just a random question. Do you guys think this was a win for the Rams or the Patriots in terms of a trade?
Looking at it for a Patriots point of view, through a fantasy football point of view, I think is a win for the Patriots, because I think it makes that goal line work that the Patriots always seem get a lot easier to kind of predict here. But I don't know. The Rams got another running back. You can't have too many running backs, especially with Darrell Henderson, who's 5'8", 200 pounds or whatever. He's going to be hurt. Patriots got a guy who got rid of a guy who hasn't worked out for him. I don't know. I think this is a win-win, but it's not like a Trae Young, Luka Doncic win-win. It's just a win-win where they're both solid trades.
Yeah, I would say it's a win-win. I'd lean Patriots, and the only reason why I'd say that is because I think the Rams could have got him for cheaper. A 5th and a 6th isn't much, but he shouldn't be worth that much. So, like Luke said, they need a running back. They definitely do, but I feel like they could have got him for a little less, especially as a team that already doesn't have a lot of draft picks. Granted, those are first-round picks that they don't have a lot of, but when you don't have first-round picks or a 5th or a 6th, that's not great, especially for a team that's arguably not a contender this year.
That's kind of my thought. I just don't think Sony Michel is that much better than Duke Johnson, Adrian Peterson. Some of these running backs that are out there, I just feel like you probably could have got them cheaper, and he definitely wouldn't have needed to use a draft pick, obviously. I don't know. They must have seen something in Sony Michel, but whatever. Going to the other side, though, Damian Harris is somebody who I talked up a bunch last week. I really liked him. I called him the clearest RB1 the Patriots have had in a decade, quite honestly. I still feel that way, obviously. I think it's very obvious that he is the early down guy. He's going to be the short yardage guy. It sounds like now Mac Jones has won the starting quarterback job for the Patriots, which means the offense is probably a little bit better. And Damian Harris is guaranteed goal line touches at this point. So I love that even more. James White, I think, is super sneaky as a PPR guy. He's going to get a lot of passing down work, especially because the third running back, Ramondre, I believe his first name, Stevenson, the rookie who's looked good. He's not really a passing down guy either, so I think James White's actually going to have one of his most productive seasons in a while. But Damian Harris, Trevor, you're talking about you'd rather have Damian Harris than Darrell Henderson. I'm 100% in that boat. Luke, what's your thoughts on those two specifically and just the Patriots backfield now after this trade?
Yeah, I
Cut
totally
out a little bit. What'd you say, Zach? Or at least for me. What two people?
Just between Darrell Henderson and Damian
okay.
Harris.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat with you guys. And I think Damian Harris is this is a year for him to be the stud. I think, he might even get up to RB1 ranking by the middle of the year. It sounds like, like you said, Zach, Mac Jones is kind of won that starting job. If they do bring Cam Newton, they're going to inevitably bring him out either with a shoulder injury or him having COVID for the 19th time or him getting into another car accident or something. And so that just leaves so much goal line work for Damian Harris. Mac Jones is in. Mac Jones is not running those quarterback powers like they saw last year. I think there's a whole lot of upside. I mean, I'm thinking, you're going to get a couple multi-game touchdowns or multi-touchdown games from Damian Harris the whole year. I wouldn't even call it crazy to say that he might be up there for lead the league in rushing touchdowns. I think, especially with that rookie quarterback, they're going to have to rely on the running back a little bit plus the short yardage.
Well, and where they are, even if Damian Harris and Darrell Henderson are exactly even in every stat category, Damian Harris is going 8th, 9th round. That's an absolute steal. The guys he's around, Trey Sermon, Leonard Fournette, Michael Carter, you're not going to get production like that out of that position. I honestly don't know why he's ranked that low. And, it kind of feeds in, even if you don't think he's that great of a running back, in a year where running backs are going to be super important, getting a guy like that in the 8th, 9th round, I mean, no matter how good Darrell Henderson does, that value doesn't come around often.
Currently, Damian Harris's ADP in a 12-team PPR is middle of the 607. I think that's come up a little bit. I'm interested to see how much he comes up just because I don't know why people would have thought Sony Michel impacted Damian Harris so much. So I feel like his value at least should be relatively unchanged, even though I think he's undervalued. If I can continue to get him as my 3rd or 4th running back like I have been, I love it. It's safe. It's good. He has a nice bye week. It's nice and late, and there's not a ton of people on it. He's just a great player. I'm really excited about him on pretty much every one of my fantasy teams this year.
Yeah, and you're going to get production out of him.
Yeah. And people are afraid because obviously everyone's playing PPR, which is good. That's smart. You're adults. You play PPR. Good for you. He doesn't catch the ball. That's fine. Neither does Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has no shot to be running back 1, 0%. But he's also a first-round running back because he has big yardage. He has a bunch of touchdowns. Damian Harris can be the exact same player. And that offensive line for New England is elite. It's top 5, especially in run blocking. So there's no reason not to like him, especially with a defense that's also very good. So the Patriots, with a rookie quarterback or with Cam Newton, I can assume, especially with 2 tight end sets, they just paid a bunch of money to tight ends. They're going to try to be a ball control offense. They're going to run the ball. And I can't imagine they're going to give all those carries to James White. So they're going to have to go somewhere. And Damian Harris is that dude. Yeah.
And I think, sorry, Trevor, I think just as long as Mac Jones is there, I think everyone in a keeper league should be looking at Damian Harris. You grab Damian Harris 7th round and you're good on running back for the next, 4 years.
This might get me fired, but I'm part of a half PPR, not standard, but half. Is that? Well, I'll figure out. If he kicks me out, you'll know why. But especially for half PPR, where the catches mean even less, he's even more of a value. I mean, like you said, in that offense, there's no way it's going to be a check down offense, run and gun. He's going to get value. And when he starts producing, and like we've talked about him staying there over the off season, that's going to get him a hell of a lot more carries for Belichick. It's pretty obvious. It's just a matter of when, not if.
And half PPR sort of feels like a game ending in a tie. So as someone wearing a soccer jersey, it makes perfect sense why you're in a half PPR league.
Hey, it wasn't my decision, okay?
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so let's talk about what we are titled.
Luke has his hand raised, so let's start with him.
Go ahead, Luke. What do you got?
Trevor, this might get me fired, but I'm on the board of I'm on the board of just touchdowns and field goals only. I think that's fun.
No, stop. Absolutely not. It's all fun and games till you draft a bum quarterback and you win on like 2 Mason Crosby field goals.
Right. It makes it's funny.
That's like a really good idea if you're new to fantasy and you like don't understand it yet and you're like, oh, it would be cool if. It's like no,
it's awesome. It's awesome. When the games are like high score of the week is like 30. That's great.
Do you also want that league to be 4 teams as well, or
well, that would be really fun. No, I'd rather have it like 32 teams.
No.
Tight ends only touchdown league. That sounds pretty fun.
Can you imagine you get 32 and 33 and don't draft again until you got Lazard on the board as the best option?
Right. I don't know. That 32nd pick would be nice.
Let's move
Unless
on.
He gets hurt.
Yeah, I guess.
We're moving on. Okay. Let's talk fantasy lottery tickets. This is basically these players that you can draft towards the end of your draft. We are going to label them as round 13 on. Obviously, we're talking about typically there's 15 rounds in a fantasy football draft, give or take. These are players, though, that you are drafting essentially for free because this is usually a kicker round or a defense round. You don't need to draft a kicker. Take one of these guys. They could end up with super high value come week 1. They could also just develop into somebody super good. So for these, we can just go one at a time, and I'll start with the highest ADP I have here. So he barely makes the cut. And I'm going to start with him because he's somebody who we talked about a ton last year in our fantasy shows. That's Cole Beasley. He's getting drafted the second pick of the 13th round. He was a PPR monster last year. If you're in a PPR league, especially, he just needs to be owned. I think his role goes down this season because of Emmanuel Sanders, but not to the point where he should be in the 13th round. That would mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that would mean likely he needs to be above wide receiver like 50 or something like that, probably even lower than that. He's going to have value. Third down, we know Josh Allen's going to go to him. Bills score a lot. They don't have a super strong running game, so it's a chance for touchdowns as well. Cole Beasley, he isn't a guy with massive upside like I usually like in my lottery tickets, but he's just somebody who shouldn't be there. What's your guys' thoughts on him?
Just like Damian Harris, he's a guy who's going to get work, and you're getting that out of the 13th round. You know, he's going to catch passes. Cole Beasley is an awesome receiver. He works the middle of the field incredibly, and he takes hits, and he gets up every single time. You know, he's going to be out there on the field every play. He's just going to get work, and you know, to get 5 points out of your round 13 pick is great. I mean, you're looking at double digit points maybe every week from your 13th round pick here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the only hit that is going to knock him out is COVID, possibly. I mean, like, agree or disagree with it. That could be very problematic. But I mean, we saw his production when he's on the field. And when it's a lottery ticket, when it's just a shot in the dark, I will definitely take that chance for a proven guy.
Well, especially if you go just obnoxious with running backs. Let's just say you went 4 running backs in your first 5 picks, then you go like quarterback, then maybe you go Logan Thomas, you get a tight end, and then you start with your wide receivers. I'm honestly fine with starting Cole Beasley as my wide receiver 3 week 1 and just wait for somebody to emerge. I think he's fine. Luke, who is one of your first lottery tickets here?
Well, so mine changed recently today. I know Zachy had sent this over to us a couple days ago. Like, here's a plan, whatever. We'll get into it a little bit in our next show, Lombardi Sweep. But I like Randall Cobb at 14. We'll get him 14-5 here. Devin Funchess obviously out for the year. I thought even with Devin Funchess there, if he made the team or not, Randall Cobb's still going to get his goal line work that he seems to get. He's not going to be Devontae Adams on the goal line, but I don't think it's crazy to see, 7 to 10 touchdowns from Randall Cobb this year. Obviously, rapport there with Aaron Rodgers. There's a reason Randall Cobb is back on the team. just like Cole Beasley, he works the middle of the field well. He's usually that dump off guy when Rodgers is out running around in the backfield trying to find someone, and he runs with the ball. He's got moves. He's shifty. We think he's old, but he's only like 30 years old or something like that. So the guy still got some oomph left in him. And the 14 spot, I think it's not as great as Cole Beasley, but it's similar to Cole Beasley, where you are getting production rather than trying to take a rookie receiver who's on a chance that he's gonna get a long 1 yard or a long 98-yard touchdown or something like that.
Yeah, that was my guy too. So that's unfortunate. But to kind of build on top of that, Aaron Rodgers is also on the Pat McAfee show briefly today, and he talked about how Randall Cobb has done one thing every day that's like, oh, wow, or like, oh, like he's still very productive. Like, look at that. And even if he didn't say that, hell hath no fury like Aaron Rodgers pissed off. Aaron Rodgers finally got his guy, and he doesn't. He cares. He cares. Whether he says it or not, he cares what people are going to say about him. It's his guy. He's going to make sure he's going to get fed and prove people wrong, just as a lasting middle finger. So Randall Cobb's going to get work. And really, I mean, do we trust MVS to suddenly get better? I mean, granted, they have two different roles, but, if he's going to go 50-50 chance that MVS drops it or Randall Cobb in a slant, that rapport is going to come in handy, like Luke said.
And I think the theme with a lot of these lottery tickets are going to be if one person in front of them gets injured, they're going to be thrust into a larger role. Randall Cobb is in the middle just because I think his role's inconsistent. However, if Amari Rodgers gets hurt before week 1 or early in the season, I think Cobb is going to be pretty much that exclusive underneath slot guy. I think those two are going to be splitting those snaps this season. So if you're saying Randall Cobb plays 60% of the offensive snaps in that slot role, he has just as good of a chance at a touchdown as anybody. He's going to get all those underneath yards, get it to him, and he can run. And then he plays the Bears twice a year. You start him against the Bears. It's like T.Y. Hilton against the Texans. Just do that.
Just a quick question for you guys. Is Randall Cobb the number 2 receiver you want from the Packers?
Honestly, I don't want a second receiver unless it's best ball. If it's a regular league, maybe, because I'm never going to feel good about starting Lazard or MVS. What do you think, Trevor?
I got nothing to add. It's just as depressing the way I'm looking at it. So why even bother? We'll get to the depression later. If you're wondering why are they cheery, just wait. We got our Lombardi sweep coming up. So
I will say I've been doing a lot of best ball drafts, and in best ball, MVS and Allen Lazard a lot of the times are free. And this was the number 1 offense in the league last year. Those two are going to get touchdowns. You're never going to be able to predict it, but in best ball, it does not matter. So target those two guys. I think it's super smart. Trevor, who's one of your lottery tickets?
Well, Luke stole one of mine, so I'm going to steal one of yours, Zach. It's only fair. Kind of, from last week. We talked about Kenneth Gainwell. I had some other guys, but the sleeper rankings are a little different, so they don't quite make the cut. But Kenneth Gainwell, I mean, we talked about it. This Eagles backfield, if it wasn't for the Rams, they'd be the ugly middle stepchild of the NFL running back rooms. Miles Sanders can't stay healthy. Even when he does, he really doesn't produce that well. You have an offensive coordinator, or a new coach, new system. Gainwell, we all like him. It just seems obvious. And, again, when you have a pick this late, you're really not losing anything. And even if you drop him, like if he's bad after week 1, I doubt anybody's going to pick him up. So you can, until he really does well, you can probably drop him once or twice as well.
Yeah, if you're a person who's willing to roster Nyheim Hines, I think Nyheim Hines is better, but he's going to play that exact same role. Again, maybe you can't predict it. However, there were some weeks where you could predict Nyheim Hines. And I will say for the Eagles, which is different than the Colts, the Eagles are going to be trailing in every fucking game this season. So they're going to have to pass, and Kenneth Gainwell is going to get work. He had the best hands out of any running back in this draft. And for some reason, maybe we'll see a change this year, but it doesn't seem like it. The Eagles seem reluctant to use Miles Sanders as a receiver. He seems capable, but they don't want to do it. They'd rather use Boston Scott as a receiver, who isn't any good. So if you're saying Nyheim Hines or Kenneth Gainwell, same player, if Kenneth Gainwell has to beat out Boston Scott for receiving work, I think he can do that.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, too, unless Jalen Hurts was working out with Peyton Manning this offseason or something, the passing game is not going to be great. And what do you do when you don't have a passing game? You check down to your receiving running back. And, Nyheim Hines did a great job with Philip Rivers in that role last year. It seems obvious. It seems like Jalen Hurts is not Philip Rivers, but it seems like a pretty similar situation is going to come up, especially if they're trailing all game. Seems like a lot of screens set up, a lot of check downs, whatever. Just get the running back the ball and let him go after it.
Agreed. I'll mention this player super quickly just because I talked him up a second ago. T.Y. Hilton, he's going as 1403. Again, 12-team PPR. Put a little bit more respect on him. Michael Pittman sucks. T.Y. Hilton's going to get work.
You watch it. Don't say he sucks. Just say he's average, okay? You got a Michael Pittman fan here. You got to temper it a little bit.
Okay, T.Y. Hilton is not what he once was. Michael Pittman is what he always was. How about that? I'm going to mention
he's a good vlogger, okay? Give him some respect.
I'm going to name two wide receivers here who are basically in the same exact situation, in my opinion. One's going 13-10, the other's going 14-01. First one is second-year receiver Bryan Edwards for the Raiders. Last year, everyone was hyping him up, but then he couldn't stay healthy. 14-01 is Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions, who everyone loves in camp, out of camp. Everyone thinks he's a stud. He's been kind of doing it all. And for the Lions, people really can't nail down this depth chart, but I will say Rashad Perriman might not make the Detroit Lions team, and he was the person everyone was highest on. He's been practicing with the 2s and the 3s, and he can't stay healthy. Dan Campbell said he hasn't seen enough of him. However, St. Brown might be a starter. He's been a stud. He's going to do a lot of underneath stuff. Jared Cook's the quarterback. Jared Cook's not going to bomb it deep.
Jared Goff. Jared Cook's a tight end.
Jared Cook's also not going to bomb it deep. Jared Goff. Look at what I had Jared Cook as another lottery ticket here. But Cooper Kupp obviously exploded for the Rams because Jared Goff can't throw the football. He did a play action that's just checked it down. St. Brown can be the exact same player. I like him quite a bit. Lions, again, they're going to have to pass a lot, whether Dan Campbell wants to or not. And if DeAndre Swift also isn't ready for week 1 or week 2, like it sounds like he may not be, they're going to be passing a whole ton, and St. Brown may be that guy. Luke, out of those two, Bryan Edwards, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, which one do you want more?
I want Amon-Ra St. Brown more because, just like you said, he's going to get the work. Jared Goff, Jared Goff gets the time, he'll find the guys that are open. If he doesn't have the time, he'll check down underneath. Amon-Ra St. Brown underneath, perfect. Like you said, Zach, it seems like St. Brown has been impressing everyone. I think that was the case with his brother EQ with the Packers. So I don't know how that's going to work out in Detroit, but more praise to him if he can make it out of Detroit alive. But Amon-Ra is a history lesson. Amun was an Egypt deity, and when he combined with the sun god Ra, they became Amon-Ra.
Okay.
Does that mean he's better than just if he was just Amun or a Ra?
Yeah, it's like a combo. It's like two gods come together to become Amon-Ra, rather than just having one Amun and one Ra.
So it's like the split Starburst. Starbursts are good, but the two flavors in one is just another. Okay, yep. Another level. Zach clearly has never tried those split Starbursts, and he's looking up deities right now. So I'll go. I'm going Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. Quintez, obviously, I'll start with Galladay. He was injured the whole season. Marvin Jones was kind of the guy, and Quintez Cephas even looked good. If Quintez Cephas can look good, and I think he's a good wide receiver, if he can look like a 1 at times in your offense, you have a huge vacuum that you need filled by a receiver. And you bring in Jared Goff, you bring in a guy who runs those underneath routes. Amon-Ra can't fill the vacuum, but he can certainly help it. And obviously, they're not just losing Galladay; they're also losing Marvin Jones. So they need production badly. And with Perriman not making the team, I'd rather take something that I have at 80% confidence as something that I have at 20 in Brian Edwards.
Equanimous means composure.
Oh,
so
that's
the
interesting.
Sun God definitely is cooler, so he's definitely the better St. Brown. That's kind of what I was going to get at there.
Don't they have a third? I think they have a third St. Brown.
I know. Are they brothers for sure?
Yeah.
Okay, their dad was Mr. Universe, and both of them are skinny as hell. So I don't know what's going on. I think they were adopted.
Osiris.
Osiris. That's a man. Equanimous really kind of dropped the ball in the name. Osiris is 23. I don't know why he's not in the league, but that's sad.
DQ in the league.
I believe
That's
that
true.
Osiris was an Egyptian god of agriculture.
Osiris is also a shoe brand, so I can also contribute.
Right.
Okay, who's one of your? Do you have another lottery ticket?
Yeah, I did. Let me pull up my phone here. I'm too busy looking up the St. Brown family. I like. I think the one. Where did he go? Oh, Darrell Williams in Kansas City is obviously going to get eyes on him. Because he it seems like he's a number 2 back, if I'm correct. So if Clyde Edwards-Helaire goes down, it's never bad to have the running back in the one of the best offenses in the league. Although the running back doesn't get a lot of work in that offense. If Andy Reid likes something, that he's just going to keep hammering it away. But in order to set up those long Tyreek Hill bombs, you're going to need some running eventually. CEH goes down. I think that's a good. It's a good one to pick up. And I think for every CEH owner out there, you might want to pick him up for a handcuff. But it's always fun to steal someone's handcuff and watch that running back go down, and then you get all the points. But we don't root for injuries in the show, but it's funny when that goes on.
True.
I would go, I believe Justin Jackson of the Chargers is their 2. I think Kelly's the 3, if I'm not mistaken. Austin Eckler was hurt a lot of last year. I don't think the year before. I'm pretty sure he played either the full season or only missed a game, but he's had some injury concerns before. I'm not sold on him. He has really high usage. The amount of work he gets is insane. PPR or half PPR. And if you're looking at a handcuff, they're not going to go to Justin Jackson as much as they would at Eckler, but that's still a heck of a handcuff. And again, that late, I'm going to take a risk on a guy who, maybe did he rush back? He did come back pretty quickly from a very severe injury. Are we sure he's better? I don't know. I think it would be a safe bet, one that makes you feel safe under the covers at night, knowing that, hey, I got Justin Jackson. Everything's going to be okay.
I had both of those written down too. Darrell Williams, his role essentially, in my opinion, is if Edwards-Helaire goes down, he's the RB1. When Edwards-Helaire is healthy, he's not going to get any work, and it's going to be Jerick McKinnon is at RB2. But it seems like every single year there's like 2 or 3 weeks Darrell Williams is a must-add, and you need to play him. Austin Eckler, every single year, is going to get hurt. We know it's going to happen. I have Justin Jackson written down. I also have Josh Kelly written down. I was a huge Josh Kelly guy last year. I know he's a better player. He's a better runner, 100% better receiver. And the biggest thing that come out of camp, the Chargers camp this year, is apparently Josh Kelly's pass protection is super good now. So that's good. That means there's pretty much no flaws in his game. When Austin Eckler gets hurt, I would assume both of them are going to get work. And again, hot hand, whoever is playing better is probably going to get the most work. So I think both of them do have value. The frustrating thing is I'm not sure if there's a clear handcuff there, whereas Chiefs, I think there is. But, I think both of them have good, especially right now. If you're drafting, don't draft a kicker, draft a handcuff to somebody like one of these guys. And then if the starter doesn't get hurt, you drop him before week 1 and grab your kicker. That's the smartest way to play fantasy right now.
Also, speaking of which, we talked last week about what am I going to do at number 4. I've made my decision. A, because of cheap league, and B, because I love him to death. I'm taking Austin Eckler at 4. It's a stupid pick, but it's a high risk, high reward because, hey, if Austin Eckler can stay on the field, he's probably going to be a top 5 running back. He's one of the best in PPR if he stays on the field. But like we've said, he has the durability of a wet piece of paper towel. So, who wants to take the risk, I guess.
I like it, Trevor. Stay true to yourself.
This is so heartwarming.
I want to make this a poster, and I'm going to put it back here.
Yeah.
Hey, Luke, do we still got the fist bump going?
Oh, shit.
No. There we go. Okay, we got it. It took a little while. But we got it.
Looked like I was ready to Mike Tyson Zach in the face here.
Hey, he talks crap about Josh Kelly being better than Austin Eckler. He should be Mike Tyson in the face.
Better than Josh Jackson, not Eckler.
Okay, good.
My bad. Okay, here's a comparison I thought of today, and I felt really smart when I thought of it for a player. Corey Davis last year, obviously, he became the wide receiver 2. We talked about how he saw cornerback 2 coverage for the first time, most likely in his entire football career, dating back high school, middle school, whatever. He was probably always the stud, and that's why he thrived. Now, in Miami, I think there's probably a similar situation with Devontae Parker. And Devontae Parker, who everyone is hyped up every fucking year. Every single year is going to be his breakout year. He can never stay healthy. He can never do it. He's currently going 14.04, so literally free. Just take him whenever. Will Fuller is suspended for 1 game, I believe. When Will Fuller comes back, he's going to be the number 1. Jalen Waddle's there. He's going to take a bunch of coverage. Devontae Parker is not going to see cornerback 1 coverage for the first time probably in his entire career. And I think he's probably going to enjoy it. Again, health is a major concern, as it is with Will Fuller, as it is with everybody else basically on the Miami roster. But if everyone's healthy, I think Devontae Parker is extremely interesting. And it's just one of those cases where everyone who has been hyping him up every single season has finally just given up on him. And that's why you see him in the middle of the 14th round. And at that price, I'm willing to take a stab at him, even if I have to hold on to him. Obviously, he's the wide receiver 1 for week 1 when Will Fuller suspended. But after that, I think he thrives in weaker coverage. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Do you think that that'll play, a factor? And, obviously Will Fuller's out. Devontae Parker may not play well week 1. People are drafting him in the 14th round. Will just dump him after week 1.
Very possible. I mean, there's always somebody who gets hurt in week 1, and then there's going to be people who blow up. So I would assume he's one of those expendable players. And if that's the case, I'm going to rush to pick him up because never know.
Devontae Parker is one of those weird players who I feel like should be 23, but I also feel like has been in the league like 20 years. And, to your point, I've kind of been cautiously high on him, as in like he can be good, but obviously you got to admit about the injury stuff. But 2019, he played 16 games, started 14, had over 1,200 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns. As wide receiver 1, even last year, he didn't play all the games. He only played 14, started 11, but still just shy of 804. And you bring it up, second coverage, and guess what? His quarterback is gonna probably call some audibles this year, so that'll probably help some things. It seems like a good bet, and again, this low, it seems like a surefire throw at it. It's going to be tough, though, because I'm not going to draft a kicker. 5 of these guys are going to be available, and I'm probably going to be an auto draft because I'm not going to be able to decide in time.
I was going to say too, sorry, Zach, that I think Miami's in a position to make the playoffs this year. They have a great defense, great coach. Depending on how well Tua Tagovailoa plays, Devontae Parker is going to have to play a big role in helping Tua develop and helping them get to the playoffs. And if you're going to get someone who needs to be featured in an offense in the 14th round, it seems like an absolute steal.
He's been good the past 2 years. His only concern is injury. That's the only concern. And he's going 1 spot ahead of Mason Crosby. He's going behind Zach Ertz. He's going behind Damian Williams, who is the backup running back for the Bears. behind Jared Cook, behind Kirk Cousins, behind AJ Green. It makes absolutely no sense. Like, this is a free player who has an established role on this offense, an offense that should be better from last year. It makes no sense not to take a stab at him. And at the very least, he needs to be on your radar, because this is, again, if you go super RB heavy early, if you draft Cole Beasley as your wide receiver 3 and you take this guy as your wide receiver 5, I'm fine with it. It's not going to look good. It's, all the draft grades afterwards, Fantasy Pros, Yahoo, whatever they do, they're going to grade you really badly. I'm cool with it, personally.
Yeah.
Luke, you have any other lottery ticket here?
Yeah, I just had a question for you guys. I don't know if I want either one of these guys on my team, but they're on both ends of the spectrum and on the same team. It's Rondale Moore and AJ Green. If you had to pick one of those guys, who would you rather have for fantasy this year?
Personally, I just don't think AJ Green's got it. Like, I think he's been washed for a few years, and I know they're going to use Rondale Moore in a variety of ways. They've been giving him jet sweeps and doing all that. So you drafted him for a reason. I would prefer to take him. Again, I'm probably going to stay away from both, but yeah, I think he has a higher upside.
I would prefer Rondale Moore, but if I see either of them, come up on my screen, I'm probably going to, visually squirm and be like, what are you doing here? Like, get to the, no, bad. Get to the back of the queue. Because, there's so many weapons. You also have to trust Kyler Murray's arm, which is scary, because it seems like the only time he's consistent is even at 50 yards downfield to Hopkins, and especially in that division. Yeah, that's scary. And then add in durability for AJ Green. It seems like a comedy of errors, if anything.
I will say, if you think about how they should set this offense up and the way Kyler Murray is, AJ Green should be an outside vertical threat, not because he is a threat, but because they have to respect him on the outside. That's kind of the only thing that Hopkins was used for last year, and it worked because he's a stud. He's, top 2, top 3 wide receiver in the league. I would assume Rondale Moore works underneath. We talked about this with the Dallas Cowboys last year with the tight end situation. They had a bunch of vertical threats, but nothing underneath. I would assume that's where Rondale Moore works. He works the underneath, the crossing route, stuff like that. And Kyler Murray can't fucking throw. Like, he checks everything down. An obnoxious amount of his passes are behind the line of scrimmage. And I think that's going to be where this guy works. And he's electric with the ball. So it makes sense, get him the ball in space. And I assume that's what the Cardinals will do. So, again, best ball target, probably not season-long target, but there's worse players. Trevor, do you got any other lottery tickets here?
Well, I see I closed the tab, so no. I do not.
I'll just rattle off a couple more I had. I had Terrace Marshall, rookie for the Panthers, 1402. He has an established role. He's going to be a stud. Henry, if you're listening, stop fucking messaging me. But going back to what I said about a lot of these lottery tickets, if somebody gets hurt, if DJ Moore gets hurt, if Robbie Anderson gets hurt, he's going to be one of the starting 2 wide receivers and gets a lot of work. And those 2 certainly aren't healthy. They've both had their injuries, so I think he makes sense there. John Brown for the Raiders, I think he's a stud. He always produces. He's just always hurt. So I like him. Jalen Reagor for the Eagles, I think he's going to be used in a lot of ways. And then I wrote down 3 quarterbacks who qualify as round 13 or later, who I think have the potential to be top 10 quarterbacks. I have Ben Roethlisberger, Kirk Cousins, and Jameis Winston. I assume Jameis Winston has his job now. If not, Saints can tank for a draft pick, I guess, whatever. I don't know what the hell they're doing. But I like all 3 of those quarterbacks. I think they're all fine. I've been getting a lot of Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm very okay with that.
Yeah, and I was just going to bring that up, too, with quarterbacks. It wouldn't be absolutely horrible to wait, if you don't get a Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen, something like that, to wait until the 14th round to get Ben Roethlisberger or Jameis Winston, because both those guys are going to air the ball out like nuts. So you're going to get points one way or another. And if you're holding off on a quarterback, that probably means you have an excess amount of running back or an excess amount of receivers. We're going to make up for that, 10 points that Ben Roethlisberger isn't getting you that Patrick Mahomes would get you.
Yeah, and a guy who's kind of like that, but the light version is Jared Cook, who we've talked about. He's one of those guys too. If you don't have any of the top 5 guys, and you're saying, I don't really know. If you're not really going to know, why not wait till like the second last round and draft running backs, wide receivers that you do know about? Makes too much sense.
Like one player, I guess he finished pretty high last year, and obviously he just got Julio Jones. Ryan Tannehill, he's going in the 8th round right now. I don't understand. Like, what's the point of drafting Ryan Tannehill in the 8th round when you could draft Ben Roethlisberger in the 13th round? And then guess what? If Ben Roethlisberger doesn't pan out, drop him. Pick up Kirk Cousins. Pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick. Pick up Jameis Winston. Pick up Zach Wilson, who looks like he's going to sling the ball and he's surrounded by weapons. And he's always going to be trailing. Like, there's value late.
Well, yeah, why use an 8th round pick on a quarterback who's in a run heavy offense? Unless you're Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson who's going to run it himself, it really doesn't make that much sense, even if you did have a good arm.
Completely agree. So now let's end the show here. Let's go back to the wheel like we did last.
Oh, real quick too. I have a thing that we can leave up to the viewers. A question, poll, whatever they want it to be. Are you a fan of NBA, Inside the NBA on TNT? Because I think we could have a Christmas special with this podcast with the same shenanigans, but fantasy football spin. So let us know. We'll find a way to get it worked out.
Seems like a good idea.
I thought of it like 10 minutes ago, so don't yell at me if you don't like it. But here we go.
I vote yes. All right.
Same here. Okay, so like we did last week with the wheel, we're going to spin it. It's going to pop up with the player, and we will buy or sell them at their current ADP. But since the show's sponsored by Prize Picks, we will also see if there is a prop that we can pick over or under for that player as well. So let's spin it. Let's see what's going on here.
Todd Gurley.
Chris Carson.
Interesting.
It is interesting. Okay, let me see what his ADP is first. Chris Carson in. I just added a bookmark. I don't want to do that. Okay, Chris Carson in 12-team PPR leagues is going 305, so middle of the 3rd round, after David Montgomery, after George Kittle, before CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson. Luke, are you buying or selling Chris Carson at that ADP?
I don't know. I've never been a huge Chris Carson fan. Everyone's been on him, and this guy's the number 1 back in Seattle. I think a lot of people are still holding on to hope that he's going to be Marshawn Lynch when the Seattle made a couple Super Bowls back in the day. But I'm going to say I'm going to pass on Chris Carson here. I'm going to sell his ADP. I think you're going to get a good running back in the first 2 rounds. And I don't know. I just don't think Chris Carson has injury concerns. There's always that backup that everyone else talked about for Seattle, whether it be whoever But Chris Carson it's a wild card. I never know what to do with him, so I always stay away from him because I know he can produce. He does produce sometimes, and I know he can lay an egg, and he does lay an egg sometimes. And I think if you're taking 3, you're going to want a number 1 guy that you can rely on, kind of like a Terry McLaurin or someone like that.
You said 3rd round, right, Zach?
Yep, 305.
I'm going to sell. The only time I wouldn't is if you had a lot of great wide receivers fall to you and you don't care about running backs that much. Because last year he was injured a lot. For the most part of his career, he has been consistent, but he's never going to be that boom running back 1. So if you have no other running backs, I think he's a good take there. But other than that, you have, depending on the leagues, McLaurin, I think Allen Robinson is around there too. You have talent around there. So if you're going running back early, especially 2 running backs early, I would sell.
I like him as a player. I think he's super talented. He's involved in the passing game. But yeah, at that ADP 305, we talked about Like you just said, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Allen Robinson are right after him. I'd rather take one of those wide receivers because we talked about James Robinson before. We talked about Myles Gaskin last week. Damian Harris. I'm fine with all of them as my RB2 or RB3 instead of Chris Carson. I'd rather take one of those wide receivers because I do think there's a tier dip after those wide receivers. So I would sell Chris Carson. Going to prize picks here. Prize picks, where did I put that tab? For rushing yardage for the season, Chris Carson's rushing yardage is at 1,050.5, I believe. Just went away. I believe that's what it was. Last year, for reference, last year he ran for 681 yards in 12 games. Year before, he ran for 1,230 in 15 games, 1,151 in 14 games. The year prior, obviously, a 17th game added to the schedule this year. But health has always been a concern with Chris Carson. Trevor, are you thinking over or under 1,050 yards for him this year?
I would go under, and I think it's because of the division he's in. He's going to get nailed. I mean, this is a tough division defensively. There are a lot of hard hitters. I think they're going to, it's Seattle, so they're not going to be way behind, so he's going to get a decent amount of work too. I just don't think this body can hold up. So I'd go under. But, the thing about Chris Carson, we all like him as a player. I don't think anybody would be surprised if he hit 1,300, if he found his stride middle of the season.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, Trevor. It sounds like you're a little in between there. I think that's what I'm at too. Russell Wilson's going to air the ball out like he always does. Pete Carroll wants to run the ball like he always wants to. So the Seattle offense is good. I think you're going to get a good mix of run and pass, but I don't know how well their defense is to keep him in the game for Chris Carson to continue to run through the second half of games. I think a lot of games, like his whole career, are going to be on the back of Russell Wilson, and I don't know. I just don't see Chris Carson getting that 1,000 yards. But once again, like you said, he's been consistent and gets that 75 to 100 yards a game, which can do it. So I think it depends on how the defense plays this year, obviously. But I'm going to pass on that. I'm going to say no, he's not going to get. I don't think he gets 1,000. I think defense is too bad. Russell Wilson's being aired out too much. Whether or not the rumors are true, if he wants to get out of there or not, who knows? It just seems like dysfunction there, and I'm passing on that.
While he was hurt last year, so he missed 4 games, it looks like. I think the most concerning thing, what I'm looking at, is he played over 60% of the snaps just 3 times last year, which is super concerning for the lead running back. And there really wasn't someone to push him from behind. I mean, Penny's still there. He was there. And then Carlos Hyde. But if you're being pushed by Carlos Hyde, that's concerning. I'm going to go under as well. If he stays healthy, I think he'll go over. I just don't trust he'll stay healthy. And if he's going to get less than 60% of the snaps, I mean, it's just not a recipe for success. A lot of that dispute with Russell Wilson was because Russ wanted more say in the offense. He wanted them to open it up like they started the year with last year when he was an MVP candidate. The defense was so bad that Pete Carroll was like, no, we have to run the ball, control the clock, make sure the defense isn't on the field. All of a sudden, the Seahawks started losing. Russell Wilson was out of the MVP talks. So I think it does transition back to a pass-first offense, which favors Chris Carson being on the field. But I think Carson's a better receiver than a runner at this point in his career. So I'll go under as well. Before we get out of here, I'll give those other prize picks. I have 3 coming out in an article tomorrow for those joining right now. A reminder, I said Russell Wilson over 33.5 touchdowns, passing touchdowns. Like I said, health's never been a concern. He's played every single game of his career. He's passed for 34 touchdowns in 3 of the past, or 34 or more touchdowns in 3 of his last 4 seasons. He's going to do it again. This next one, I mean, it's not a sexy quarterback. Like, you're not super excited to place an over bet for this guy, but it's a lock. Derek Carr. I have Derek Carr, where is it, over 4,050.5 passing yards. But there's no reason why it's set this low. He passed for 4,100 yards last year. He passed for 4,054 yards the year prior, The year before that, he passed for 1 yard less than this prop. Again, there's an extra game this year. They added more passing weapons. Darren Waller's getting better. The running game's going to be better, so the play action's going to work. Derek Carr's going to pass for probably close to 4,500 yards. I think he's going to be passing for a lot. And then this last one is with the magic man, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And I think this prop is more so a prop. You're picking whether you think he's going to start the full season or not, because his passing yardage is set at 3,900.5 yards, which is nothing. I'm going over. He just gives Washington the best chance to win. It's not Heineke, it's Fitz. He's the leader, and they boosted that receiving core up. I know Curtis Samuel's hurt, so who knows with him, but they got De'Ami Brown. They still have Terry McLaurin. They got Logan Thomas. They got Antonio Gibson in the backfield, J.D. McKissick in the backfield. And you're saying Fitz is not going to have 3 straight 400-yard passing games? Because I'm telling you, he is. That's just Fitzpatrick. That's 1,200 yards right there. So he's for sure going to pass for over 4,000 yards. By the way, he plays in the NFC East. It's a lock. So if you chain those 3 picks together, which all seem like locks, you get 5 times your money. Simple as that. What's your guys' thoughts on those 3?
I like the Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think that's interesting. The only thing that concerns, obviously, like you said, it seems pretty easy to get that amount of yards. The only thing that worries me is I think that they have a very good defense. I think it's one of the better defenses in the league. And that makes me think that Ron Rivera is just going to get back to his running scheme that he had in Carolina a little bit. Antonio Gibson, who is there, fine runner. J.D. McKissick's going to catch balls out of the backfield. So I think he does get that. Would you say 3,900 yards?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that 3,900 yards is pretty easy to get for Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'd say. The only thing that worries me, obviously, is with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's very good at getting rookie quarterbacks to start in the middle of the year, as well as injury concerns. But at this point, Fitzpatrick's 39. He's going to be on the ball, having fun, doing whatever he does with his big beard and his big afro he's got going on now. The man's electric, and I think in our nation's capital, he'll continue to be electric.
Yeah, I mean, I think he hits the over. He always goes off at least the first 3 games of the season. And, Luke, that's a perfectly fair point about the defense. The way that I kind of look at it is I don't see their defense being on the field very much. Granted, that means more running as well. But I think he's going to have some great play action abilities. Dallas Cowboys, that's going to be a shootout, not because Dallas is that great, but their defense is horrible and stuff like that, and no other defenses can hold his jockstrap. So I think it's pretty easy over.
For reference, Alex Smith in the middle of last season had a 5-week stretch where he started 4 of the games, didn't start 1. I'm taking this because he played over 80% of the snaps in all of them. If you take those 5 games, extrapolate those stats over a 17-game season, he would have passed for over 4,500 yards. And that's Alex Smith, who was playing with a peg leg out there. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to chuck it deep every fucking time. He hasn't even heard of a check down pass before. So he's just going to lob it every single time. 4,000 yards is easy. It's just too easy. So go to Prize Picks. What?
Plus the extra game this year.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people, I feel like, aren't thinking about that. So use that to your advantage. Go to Prize Picks. Use the promo code Flurry to double your deposit. Lock these 3 in. Get 5 times your money. So deposit 20, get an extra 20. Lock these in. You get $100 at the end of the season. You're welcome. Donate 50 back to us. Why not? You're welcome.
And hey, I mean, look, you're talking to Zach, Mr. Better, me, who put $50 on the Milwaukee Bucks halfway through the season. I mean, Luke, I can't really talk to you because I really don't know how good you are at betting. But at the very worst, and I know Luke's probably pretty good, you got 2 out of 3 snipers, and they're telling you to do it. So I would say you should probably do it.
I will say that I
on our Survivor pool last year.
Oh, that is right. Luke, I am in a Survivor pool this year. I'm going to need you to do the same thing again. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And we can reuse teams. So,
hey,
I'll that's what they call it. I'm gonna take it. So if you could just be like, hey, articles out, that'd be greatly appreciated to us and our beautiful, lovely fans.
Absolutely. That's all we got for you this week. We got one more preseason game next week, then we can re-evaluate all of our rankings for a full week until the season. So next Wednesday night, come on back. We will be talking fantasy football. If you want to hang around, we're going to have a brief break here, and we'll be talking some Packers, some Green Bay Packers. Tears shed by Trevor, I think.
If you want to be brought down back to earth, if you're a little too happy, come on down. We'll help you out.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we're here for. So we'll be back in a little bit. See ya.
Peace.